Hello and welcome back to Verbose Mode by Taxcare at dev.next in Colorado Springs. We are in the middle of day 2 of the amazing conference. We already had a bunch of great talks, and there's half of the conference still ahead of us. My next guest is Jonathan Ivanov. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. And you already had your talk and you spoke about observability.
Yes.
I would assume. So I'm kind of conflicted between asking you what observability means and claiming that it's a solved problem and everybody knows what to do.
So I guess if you ask a couple of people what observability is, you will get different answers. Mm-hmm. I guess that might give some answer for the second problem as well, like why it is not really a solved problem because of these different opinions. But I guess like I usually define observability as like how well you can understand the internals of a system based on the outputs that it provides. And this is basically
that's a general book level.
Kind of, yeah. So this is basically just a fancy way of saying observability is like data about your application. And what kind of data? Usually people like tend to like limit observability as like logging metrics and distributed tracing, but there are so much more. So I gave like 2 talks yesterday, and one of them was like with Pasha that you already interviewed. So that talk was about these more conventional things, like about like logging, metrics, distributed tracing. We demoed a bunch of like code with Micrometer and also with like JMX and JFR, which I guess that's basically what observability means for most of the people.
Yeah, that's what I would say. There
exactly.
Is like the holy trio.
Exactly. Yeah, yes. But my other talk, it was about like these unconventional things, like what other kind of data the application can tell you that basically can prevent you from production incidents.
Interesting. And what are they?
Yeah. So basically the whole talk went through, like I basically told like stories to people, like real life stories when people like lost like real money on production incidents, and basically like some kind of like data that would like solve this issue. And this can be like
and this data is not the logs that
no. So
okay.
what you should like think about this data, for example, like if you are using like the simplest thing, if you are using like some kind of like a certificate, like TLS, either for your like server or for your clients, then that certificates are expiring. And that is happening a lot of times with a lot of companies. So for example, Spring Boot, I guess it was like 2 versions ago, we added like certificate information to the info endpoint so that you will see when a certificate will expire. Also, you will see when it will expire. It will also tell you, hey, a certificate will expire soon. And you will kind of like set a threshold for it. So this is like one like very, very like easy thing.
But non-traditional.
Non-traditional, yeah. Like would you put this information to the logs? No. Metrics? Well, you can actually like generate some metrics about this. Like, hey, days left till something will go like very, very wrong, but usually not traditional. Another thing, like for example, like a Java version, but like your application can tell you. And the story was basically we deployed an application, but the Java version was messed up. The Java installation was basically copied from a folder which said like Java 6 update something. This was 2010. And like it contained Java 5. And it had like bad like consequences. So you might think that, hey, I am using this Java version in production, but the reality is that only the application can tell that. And there are like many things. Like, have you, for example, like deployed the wrong version of an application to production?
Absolutely.
Yeah, how can you tell?
Oh,
right?
That brings me back to my JFrog days when one of the efforts that we tried to lead was this kind of traceability that will give you the full traceability of the artifacts, of binary artifacts that you deploy all the way back to the source code that it started with.
Yep. If you have this luxury, it's great. So sometimes I get answer, yeah, but you can tell the version by the jar file. Yeah, but what if like somebody like renamed that jar file? I have seen that too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So yeah, but your application, you can build the version number into it, and it can tell you that, hey, it can actually like tell you like much more. Like what I usually like to demo is that, hey, this is the application. I built this application with Gradle version, whatever, with these like source and like target settings. Usually like now Java 25 because like it was released 2 weeks ago. Also like what was the version of the application, what is the name of the application, what was the branch that was used when this build was made, which commit ID was used when this build was made, when that thing happened. So your application can tell you all of these like very, very important details, but would you put this into like logs, metrics, or distributed tracing?
Yeah,
Probably not.
It's not any of those.
Yeah. So one of my favorite feature in Spring Boot is Actuator. And inside of Actuator, it's the info endpoint. And usually people are like looking at me like, are you crazy? Because when you basically have like a Spring Boot application and you use the info endpoint, just like hit it, it's empty. But it's there so that you can fill it with data.
It doesn't have to be empty.
Most of the time, it is just basically like flipping like these like properties or flags. Hey, I want the Java version. I want the operating system version. I want like Git information, build information, and so on. And it will be like full of content, which will be very, very useful in production.
I have a question for you. How about, and that's tax care and our security security-minded question. What about security information? Maybe vulnerabilities? Maybe
yes. SBOM?
SBOM, right? So this kind of stuff is again not traditional observability.
Exactly.
But it does answer your definition of what you can learn about application by looking at the outcomes.
Exactly. Like one of these things, and the boot supports this now out of the box, is, for example, as SBOM. So if you put like the Cyclone.dx plugin into your like build environment, then the file that it will generate, boot can surface that to you in one of the actuator endpoints. So that, for example, you can say that, hey, am I using the wrong version of log4j?
Exactly.
Which is vulnerable. Exactly. And also you can audit things. Like you can basically ask all of your applications. For example, you need a service registry for that, but you can ask them that, hey, which version of log4j are you using? And if you are not using the latest one, then you are failing the audit and you need to fix this immediately. Yes.
And then you can either upgrade to an urgent version or using taxcare patches plan your upgrade better instead of putting down fires of immediate upgrade. I love it. This is absolutely useful, and it is especially useful because it's not traditional, right?
Yes, and people usually like don't really think about like this data is actually like data about your application. That domain or that sentence is very, very, very broad. So a lot of things can fit there, and all of them are basically like falling into the observability domain because it gives you like extra information about what is going inside of the application or like around it, like its environment. You can learn a lot of things about it.
Fascinating. Yeah, this is a very interesting view. It kind of weird that it's not the common view. Because again, if you look at the definition of vulnerability, it's so much wider than logs.
Yes, exactly. Because like if you ask a bunch of people, I believe like a good amount of them will say that, hey, observability is logging metrics and distributed tracing, maybe plus profiling or plus like a few other signals. But it's never like, no matter like how many things you list, you will never get like this broad answer with them. You will need to say that, hey, it's just data.
I think maybe one of the reasons is that a lot of that is kind of harder to productize those things.
Oh, yes.
And this is why when we think about not concept, but things, we think about what Datadog, New Relic gives us.
Exactly. So if you're a company who wants to like sell like these services, then you focus on those. Mm-hmm. But like if you are somebody who is running things in production, then you need to focus on a bunch of other things as well.
Stop thinking about products and things and start thinking about concepts and what it really means
Yes,
for you.
exactly. And how can it help you in production? Yep.
Excellent, excellent. Jonathan, that was very interesting and very insightful.
Thank you.
It definitely made me thinking. I'm sure it made our audience thinking as well. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And you folks stay tuned for more amazing episodes like this at Verbose Mode by Daxcare at Dev2 Next. Coming to you very, very soon, right after the next talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.